Tonight, new information today about that plane crash at Bangor International Airport last night. Morgan Sturdivant is at the airport and joins us now with the latest. Morgan.
Hi, John. Yes, I'm here at the airport. Airport officials held a press conference this morning and didn't provide many new details about the crash, including whether there were fatalities. And then a few hours later, an airport spokesperson sent a release saying the flight manifest showed 6 people were on the Bombardier Challenger business jet when it crashed on takeoff at the airport, and all are presumed dead. Now, that differs from a preliminary report released earlier in the day from the FAA that said 7 people died and 1 crew member was injured. The FAA told us this afternoon preliminary reports are subject to change. Now, the identities of those on board have not been released. The plane is registered to a limited liability corporation in Houston, according to federal records.
Emergency protocols were immediately activated and first responders were on scene in under a minute. In addition to the Bangor National Guard initial response with their fire and rescue vehicles, the Bangor Fire Department and approximately 10 other municipalities responded to the scene.
Must maintain control of their personal property, including...
Now, airport officials are advising travelers to keep checking in with their airlines. Officials say the airport is expected to be closed until noon on Wednesday. However, that is subject to change. The FAA and the NTSB will be investigating. At last check, the NTSB has not yet arrived here to Bangor. We'll keep you updated with all of the information as it becomes available. John, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Morgan Sturdivant, reporting from Bangor International Airport.